With the NFL draft approaching, this wide receiver class is loaded, and Makai Lemon could make his case for a top 10 pick.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. We keep our top 10 positional ranking theme going. We talk quarterbacks, running backs. Now let's talk those pass catchers, those wide receivers. We're going to get into the big three, the top 3 wide receivers in the class, wide receivers 4 through 7, and where they land and slotted in terms of the draft value and position, and then break down wide receivers 8 through 10. So, Keith, let's get into that conversation talking about these top 3, the big 3 wide receivers in the 2026 NFL Draft.
These are the wide receiver rankings.
Keith's top 3 is Jordyn Tyson out of Arizona State, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, and a shocker, actually, just looked at that, Denzel Boston out of Washington. For me, guys, and my top 3 is Jordyn Tyson out of Arizona State, Carnell Tate out of Ohio State, and I have Makai Lemon out of USC. Keith, let's start. I want to start with Makai, and then we transition into Boston. I think when I look at this receiving situation, and you look at the top 10 picks in the draft and everything like that, Keith, Jordyn Tyson's been my wide receiver 1. Carnell Tate's been my 1B wide receiver 2 all season. Makai, I had Casey Concepcion in 3 at first. Makai has better hands, better ball skills, and everything like that, more confident of a catcher, even though he came in with sub 9-inch hands, which was a little concerning. You know what I mean? But they can't really tell when you watch the tape. He doesn't drop anything. So it's just like, it doesn't matter, I guess. But I moved him up. I moved Makai up to 3. I think is there a chance that my wide receiver 1, that Makai could get drafted over my wide receiver 1? 100%. I absolutely believe that. I think Makai Lemon could. I think there's a chance he could actually be. Depending on the spot, he could actually be the first receiver off the board in this class. You know what I mean? Over a Tate, over a Tyson, and it's really just the landing spot. If it's the Browns and the Browns at 6 are taking a receiver, I think they're going to go with a guy like Carnell Tate, a bigger body, wingspan, catch radius. They're looking for a guy that can play on the outside. But some of these other teams, I can see the Saints is a spot that you look at what pick. I think they have 8 because the Chiefs have 9. If Jeremiah Love's off the board, I think that's a real conversation. I don't think Tyson's a guy that they would go. I think it's a situation between Makai or Tate because of the fact of, hey, Chris Olave's had injury history while he's been in the league with the concussions. You don't want to bring in another guy who has injury history like Tyson. I think a guy like Makai Lemon would make it a very interesting conversation between him and Carnell Tate, pairing him with a Chris Olave, a guy that's easy to get the ball into his hands for a quarterback.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the appeal to a Makai Lemon, right? And I guess I'm gonna go with, I went with my top 3, and in discussing, I guess, not having Makai Lemon in the top 3, right? I think, it's people like, okay, Keith, like, shocker, right? Like, okay, right. Why you not having? I like Makai Lemon, DP. I like Makai Lemon a lot. There are just certain elements of this that I'm concerned about, and I guess if I ask myself, when we're talking in the realm of slot wide receivers, right? Have there been drafts in the past where slot wide receivers have went later, right? Like I'm asking myself that type of thing. Like I know a Josh Downs that we've liked, right, in the past, and was a really good wide receiver out of North Carolina, and I could list off other wide receivers. I like them. I don't know. There's still a hesitancy. I think the athleticism part, right, is something that I want to see. I think he can be a dominant slot wide receiver. And even watching the film, there were things as far as him playing on the outside, right, like being able to really threaten those top tier cornerbacks that line up on the outside. It's like, okay, so putting him as my wide receiver 1, and I think that's what you were trying to go, right? Like teams feel comfortable with him. if they have a, like, basically if you had the Philadelphia Eagles, right? But if AJ Brown wasn't the issue and it was they needed another wide receiver, right? Like, he would be a good complementary piece if you had an AJ Brown already, right? Like something like that. Or maybe if you think about the Patriots and they don't have them, but like, let's say Stephon Diggs, right, was playing as your wide receiver one and you were drafting another complementary piece to that. So that's why I didn't have him in my top 3, but I understand what you're saying, that you can place him in specific spots and he should like be able to, I guess you could say, take off. Or even, let's say, how would he look? And the Cardinals are picking at 3, which is supremely high, right? But like,
of course,
piece to the Arizona Cardinals with having Marvin Harrison Jr. already, right? And then you go get the Makai Lemon type of situation.
That would be, I mean, I know they got Michael Floyd and they got Trey McBride, but you're talking about like really flushing out that receiver room. He would be a great fit between those guys working in the slot. He's the one thing I think I wrote down from Makai. He's a QB friendly wide receiver. Like the way he wins and a guy that's going to go out there, like even when you don't throw accurate passes, we love Jaden Mayava. Jaden had some streakiness with his accuracy in 2025. And Makai Lemon almost erased those issues because of how he competed for the football. And so, like he'd be a guy that you're talking about, a veteran wide receiver. If he fell, if I'm the Steelers, if he's in the teens, I'll probably look to see if I can pair that 21st pick and a day 2 pick next year and move up and get him, because he is the type of guy that Aaron Rodgers would love. He's going to put his body on the line. He's tough as nails. He's going to get you yards after catch. He's a secure hands catcher. So I think that he's a guy, like I said, just the way what quarterbacks look for in the NFL, timeliness, being at your spots, getting open. He's going to do those type of things. Now, is he going to do them at the highest level, at the same level on the outside as a Z receiver? It depends, because like you think about, we talked about landing spots. So like for quarterbacks, hey, post draft, you got to reevaluate how you feel about players once they're drafted. At pick, was it 13? Listen, I just did a mock. I had McCoy going to the Rams at 13. But one thing I know for a fact, they are absolutely looking at Makai Lemon. Like I heard that all week in Indianapolis. That is a real thing. They would look at Makai Lemon at 13 because Devontae Adams on the last year of that deal, they want a receiver on the cost-effective contract to come in and pair with Puka. That would be the guy. Like, and it was like, if he goes to Sean McVay, stock up. You know what I mean? Draft him round 1 in fantasy and feel great about it because it's Sean McVay. So, man, I think that he's got that opportunity. But talk about Denzel Boston and why he's in your top 3.
Yeah, so when I look at the combination, DP, for Denzel Boston, and I'm looking at the size, the strength, the quickness, and I've said this before on this podcast, there are elements of his game that I actually like more than I like with Rome Odunze. As far as the start-stop ability, the power, the ability to go up and over defenders. You're talking about a 50-50 ball catcher. That's him, right? Like he plays with that. And I think if you're looking to draft the XY receiver, right? And I think this is how I kind of went about my rankings, right? Guys that I think can be wide receiver 1s and X's, right? Like do it all across the board, right? And then work from there. I think Denzel Boston has a true opportunity. And like we've talked about before, I think it's going to be very interesting with this draft because of guys like Makai Lemon, KC Concepcion, the Zachariah Branches, like the Dion Burks, these undersized kind of wide receivers, and how the NFL drafts them, right? Versus the bigger body guys. I think it's going to be kind of like a clash of the two different maybe thought processes, right? Like, okay, do we believe you take the bigger body guys as far as the measurables, right? Or do we go with the undersized wide receivers that also have been really productive too? So I think it's a matter of looking at it from both angles.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a spoiler alert when it came on to Boston. Boston's closer to 10 for me than he is in the top 5. Like I think I have him at 9. I think the athleticism questions are there for me. And I think my comp for him was Keon Coleman, and we kind of seen how that play out in the league a little bit with separation and things like that. Where I'm just like, man, we were big Keon Coleman guys on this pod, right? And now some of it could be the rumors of immaturity, whatever, work ethic. Yeah, and like that talent only gets you drafted. Everything else you do once you get there keeps you employed, right? So maybe he's not, he needed that wake-up call this offseason and things like that. But I think with Denzel Boston, the ball skills are there. He shocked me jumping 35 inches. Caden Wheatgen from Iowa, who's 5'8", the wide receiver and punt return, he jumped 35 and a half. Like he just did, and like the combine wasn't, he did not have a good combine performance. So it was like just all those different data points and everything. I wasn't as high on them as when I got into the tape as I thought it was going to be. Good player. I think more of a second rounder than the first.
Yeah. All right, well, DP, let's do this, man. I think this is, it already started, right? I have Denzel Boston at 3, you have him at 9, right? We talked about this, right? Like this list is going to be very interesting as far as when we start to reveal these names, because there's so many different wide receivers, right? And we talked about it. This is all about perspective and reasons of why you went about it in this, in what we went about it in these different ways. So let's get to wide receivers 4 through 7 coming up next.
Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors, they are ready. And I've got my number 1 pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. And I have to go with old reliable, old Yeller grape. That Concord grape flavor, similar to what you find in grape juice or grape candy, with that soft, rounded sweetness and a smooth, almost syrup-like fruit profile, and a consistent, straightforward taste in a classic purple candy style finish. That's not something that I would pass up on if I were you guys. But also with 5-hour energy shots, they give you a boost with 0 sugar. So being able to get that boost of energy without the added sugar is a win-win, if you ask me. So find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Breaking down wide receivers 4 through 7 in our top 10 wide receiver rankings for the 2026 NFL draft. That's what we're getting into next. But guys, free agency is here, and so are we. Get 1 month free of the Everydayer Club with code FREEAGENCY, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad free, and you can keep this wide receiver top 10 discussion going on Discord. Just join the club at LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com. Wide receivers 4 through 7. At number 4, Keith has KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M. At number 5, he has Makai Lemon out of USC. At number 6, he has Dion Burks out of Oklahoma. At number 7, he has Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. At number 4, I have KC Concepcion out of so we have that the same. I have KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M. At number 5, I have Chris Brazzell II out of Tennessee. At number 6, I have Omar Cooper Jr. At number 7, I have Malachi Fields. Keith, let's talk KC, man. Let's talk KC Concepcion. And I feel like we've been the main ones talking about him but pretty much all college football season heading into this draft. I think this is a guy that could be an absolute game changer at the next level. My comp for him, and of course we have to do his full breakdown and profile at some point before the draft. My comp for him was Emmanuel Sanders. And for those who remember how good Emmanuel Sanders was with the Denver Broncos, I believe he was on that 2015 team when they won the national, they won the Super Bowl, not the national championship. They won the Super Bowl. And he, remember his post Broncos career when he went to San Fran and he played well there. Like this was a dynamic guy, good hands.
And he started with the Steelers, right? Didn't he start with the?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
The one guy that they drafted that wasn't a headache. I feel like you should have kept that guy. But Emmanuel Sanders, I feel like he's probably one of the more underrated receivers in the last 10 to 15 years in the NFL. Just a guy that was good at everything. Put him on special teams and let him return punts and kicks if you needed to. KC Concepcion has a lot of that in his game, and I don't even think he's fully developed as a full thoroughbred wide receiver. I think there's still some development and nuance you can add to his game with proper coaching. And when you think about the speed and athleticism, even though he didn't test at the combine, I think because he came in almost 200 pounds, I have a feeling that might have been why he came in a little bit heavier than people probably expected. And he's like, yeah, see me at Texas A&M when I run this 4-4. And, you don't have to worry about questioning it, but dynamic, explosive, field flipper, just makes so many different plays in so many different ways for an offense.
Yeah, I look at him, DP, as a Swiss Army knife, right? Like
Yep.
he just can do so many different things. I think he has the ability to play X. I think he has the ability to play Z. I think he has the ability to be your slot wide receiver, right? And then you add in the special teams component of it of being a punt returner, a kick returner. Like there are so many different things that you're getting with him. And I even thought when you mentioned Makai Lemon to the Rams, I think he would be a great complementary piece to a Puka Nacua,
sure,
right? Like just
100%.
like a guy that you can just move around and do different things with. So I had him ranked what he came in above Makai Lemon for me. And to me, it's just because I've seen those different elements on film, right? And one thing, I know we both do this, right? We pay attention to what the prospects have to say about other prospects, right? And I think it was Mansour Delane talked about KC Concepcion. He was like, nah, that guy gave like he's nice.
I've been saying it for months, Keith. I was just like, you tell him the LSU tape. He gave Mansour all he could handle. Ask Leonard Moore too. He was giving Moore some problems at Notre Dame.
Yeah, and it's just he's a very detailed and nuanced guy, right? Like he understands the details of playing wide receiver. So that's why I had him in that bucket. I'm like, you know what? Like, and I think he could go in the first round, right? Like something, and we talking about probably past pick 15, maybe. Him getting drafted in that element, like and you talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? I think he can be another team to where you have a DK Metcalf, and he would be great playing that 1B role to a wide receiver like DK Metcalf, right? So I'm all in on KC Concepcion and what I believe he can do.
Yeah, same, man. I think there's multiple teams in round one that should have him circled high on their wide receiver rankings. Because again, we expect Tate, Tyson, and Lemon to be off the board before the 20s. And I mean, I did in my mock draft, I did over on my YouTube channel, the Scouting Room, that dropped Monday morning. Keith, I did a mock where the Raiders have now with that Max Crosby trade, they got 1 and 14. I had Jordyn Tyson going to the Raiders at 14. I'm like, this makes so much sense. Like you stand pat, you get your quarterback. Jordyn Tyson falls to you at 14 because some teams, even though the medicals came back clean, some teams might still be weary about, man, you it's just something always popped up with you in your career. We don't know if we can take your top 10. And then your real Raiders, you're like, we get Tyson. We had Tyson to Jack Bech, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, Fernando Mendoza, and you got Deontay Thornton, who you drafted last year, to be that kind of designated deep threat for your offense off the bench. Like that's with the guy like Mendoza and his accuracy. That's how you, and then you just use all your money on the offensive line if you can to really upgrade that, Keith. Well, I want to talk about Chris Brazzell, man. This is a guy in my mock. I had him at 29 with that Chiefs Rams trade where they got that pick from the Rams. I was like, man, looking at how the board has fallen, the one thing we keep saying about the Chiefs is, when are you going to get that consistent deep ball back? Well, 6'4", 200 pounds, and runs a 4.37. That'll help. That'll help Pat Mahomes a lot, because you think about the fact that, heck, Mahomes was able to get the ball down the field to Tyquan Thornton, who, remember when the Patriots drafted him, everybody and their mom was like, why are you drafting him so high? Like, you know what I mean?
I think the Patriots spent that entire draft on picks.
Was that the Cole Strange draft?
Yeah, that was the Cole Strange too.
Jesus Christ! Like, yeah, that was. I think it might have been my first. It might have been my first draft with the Draft Network. To be honest with you, man, it feels like such a long time ago, and it took him to getting with the Chiefs for Tyquan Thornton to feel like an impact player. But I think Chris Brazzell, man, for those who want to helmet scout, please don't go watch the film. This dude can run routes. He can separate. He can drop his weight at the top of his routes. This isn't Jalen Hyatt 2.0. This is not that. I promise you. Jalen Hyatt was a one-trick pony, and he did that one trick very well. But this is a dude who has more of a route nuance than you actually see for bigger, taller, leggier wide receivers, and he could take the top off.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it's rare, but it's what he has is it's unlikely that you usually get this in a tall wide receiver that can sink his hips and run routes. And I think that could be the potentially special part about Chris Brazzell and what he do. And I think coming up, DP, and we'll discuss it I have him, I think, at 8, right? On the list, and we'll discuss that. But DP, let's go ahead and transition right here, and let's talk wide receivers 8 through 10, and let's talk about how much do we actually like this wide receiver class. How good is this wide receiver class? We'll discuss that coming up next.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night, from early tip-offs to late night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins, what they call basketball parlay profit boost. I'm telling you right now, you can build any college hoops parlay you desire. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Go safe, go bold. Ride with the team you've been following all season long. You can look at the odds around your favorite team if they are still in season. It's your parlay, your style, and now with more upside behind it. Head over to FanDuel.com today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Keith, you said, how much do we really like this wide receiver class? I'm going to tell you something, Keith. I said it in the summer, and I'm going to say it. I said it during the season. I'm going to say it again. I love this wide receiver class, man. This wide receiver class reminds me of a car dealership, right? Like, you get your high-end cars that's tucked away that everybody can't afford. If you don't got a top 10, top 15 pick, you're not getting one of these high ends. But then you got cars, you're like, you know what? I got a family of 4. We need something a little bigger. Let me get that Malachi Fields, right? It's just me and my girl. Let me get that. Let me get that 2-seater. We're good here. You know what I mean? That's what this wide receiver class reminds me of. Because I want to start with Malachi Fields. People were alarmed with the 4.61. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't happy with it, but I think I had to write some stuff. When we did a mock draft for Bleach Report right after the combine. And I said, if you were expecting him to run 4.4, you fooled yourself. Like, that was never part of his game to run 4.3, 4.4. You know what I mean? But don't ignore the short area quickness, the quick route running in the first and second level of the defense. Don't ignore those parts of his game. And then the elite ball skills and catch radius and frame and leaping ability. He jumped almost 40 inches in the vert. Malachi Fields is still, to me, a potential, like, if a team like Seattle wanted to take him at 32, I totally understand to pair him with, what they have already, JSN, Cooper Kupp, and Torrey Horton Jr. Those will be the guys for the future after Cooper Kupp retires. But I think second round is still where we hear his name called, Keith. But let's get into picks 8 through, not picks, wide receivers 8 through 10. At number 8, you had Chris Brazzell II. Number 9, you had Malachi Fields. Number 10, you had Reggie Virgil. For me, at number 8, Keith, I had Zachariah Branch. I had Denzel Boston at 9, and I had Deion Burks at 10. So where do you want to start here in these last 3 wide receivers?
I'm trying to think. I'm gonna do this because I threw in Reggie Virgil, right? At 10, and he's another guy that didn't run a fast 40, right? I think he was another 4.6 guy.
4.5, I think.
DP, I have to be honest, and so I went with him at 10 for me. He cracked my top 10. At the Senior Bowl, DP, I seen everything but a 4.6. I have to be like what I seen, like, this guy consistently won vertical. Like, the 4.6 was surprising for me. I have to be honest with you. And even on film, like, this guy, he's silky smooth. I told you he reminds me a lot of was it Jalen McMillan, right? That came out of Washington.
Yeah.
Was that last year or year before last? I think it was last year. 2 years ago. Yeah, he reminds me a lot of him, DP, where they just understand the details of the route running part. I always talk about it, right? The head fakes, knowing you at the top of the stem, changing speeds a lot, like just giving different looks to the defensive backs. And then, I mean, I think he, in one-on-ones, he was one of the first wide receivers to win a vertical route, right? He took off. And so the 4.6 was surprising to me, but I kind of doubled down, and that's why I left Reggie Virgil and Malachi Fields. And I know people are going to probably bump Malachi Fields all the way down, right?
Yeah.
But I left them in my top 10 because I'm like, I know what I see on film. Like, and these guys know how to get the job done.
Yeah, Virgil is a guy that just missed the cut and everything for me. I think I have Cyrus Allen, his teammate, a little bit ahead of him. Really like both of those guys. And to your point, like he's more of a long strider. He has that build up speed. Once he gets down, he's more of a flying 20 than just a run the 40 type of guy, right? And similar to like a Carnell Tate, just like those guys with long legs. He came into the combine, so he ran the 4.57. Reggie Virgil's 6'3", like so he's taller than Carnell Tate came in to the combine. He's 6'3", almost 190 pounds. He's a long limb guy, so it takes him a little bit to get going. But once he opens that stride, we saw it. He could pull away from guys vertically. I think my main thing with him is just kind of having those answers for physicality, those physical corners more times than not. But I think he runs routes well. Like I said, he's smooth. So really appreciate what he brings to the table, Keith. Zachariah Branch, and this was a guy, Keith, that I almost moved up a little bit. I moved him up initially back into my top 10. I almost moved him up a little bit higher. And I think people understand he ran like a 4.3 something. I still don't believe he came out of the blocks clean. That's the crazy. I think he still stumbled a little bit. And if he came out clean, he probably hits 4.2s. It wasn't the 40 and the vert. And I didn't care about none of that because I know how explosive he is. When he ran routes at the combine, he looked clean. He looked smooth. He looked crisp. And I was just sitting there watching. I'm just like, this is what I cared about. I didn't care about. I know he's going to test out of this world because he's one of the most explosive athletes in college football. I know that was going to be what it was going to be. But I feel like this guy has offered so much more from a route running standpoint. Yet, you look at just USC, Georgia, they use him in a specialized way. But I always go back to Georgia and Todd Gurley. And people thinking, oh, Melvin Gordon catches the ball out of the backfield at Wisconsin, so he's got to be better. Like, no, Melvin Gordon was a dog. He was great. Todd Gurley was different. He just wasn't utilized as a receiver until he got with Sean McVay. And this showcase is more about what I was asked to do than more of what I can and can't do. I think Zachariah Branch, and I think my comp I moved him up to, was that Zay Flowers comp. If a team drafts him and they utilize him like Zay Flowers, you probably got a Pro Bowl caliber receiver on your hands.
No, I listen, I agree 1,000,000%. And you've seen him in the first rounds of some of my mock drafts, the top 100s, right? I've consistently left him in there when nobody was discussing him. And I think the Georgia utilization part is not discussed enough. You want to know who Zachariah Branch could be? Cut on the USC film. The guy's electric playmaker. Like And listen, all of those guys are there, right? Deuce Robinson, Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane, all of those guys were there. And Zachariah Branch, to be completely honest, he's the guy that stands out where you like, wait, this dude is electric on the football field. We consistently discuss this, right? And we'll probably talk about it again this summer. When these guys transfer, right? That like, are you making the best decision for your football? As far as just for your football, for your football career.
Can't just be taking the bag just to take the bag, man.
Yeah, because it can hurt you and hinder you in different ways. And this was a young man that was a first round pick when we were entering the season, and he didn't lose it, right? And for me, I felt good about his route running because I'm like, I seen him do it. Yeah, he's a good route runner at the end of the day. And I agree with you. That's where I'm landing with the comp too, is the Zay Flowers comp, right? And this goes back to our conversation. I'm like, well, why from draft to draft are some things acceptable and some not, right? Like being a 5'9" wide receiver running a 4.3 is acceptable in 2024 draft to go in the first round, but it's not acceptable in this draft. I'm trying to understand this as I work.
It's that usage, man. That usage created such a narrative. Then people start getting into the analytics, and it's like, man, he caught 60% of his passes were screens. I'm like, well, yes, but that's
the play that they told him to run, right? Like, what's the other side? The other side is, do you like, okay, look, coach, you keep telling me to run screens, so then now you're playing Alabama on a Saturday night in September, and they call a screenplay, and you say, no, I want to run a go route because I have to show these people I can do more. You know what I'm saying? Like this, coaches
actually do. Like, and I think also, to be completely honest, like, yes, we tell you watch the film. I like to say study the film, and when you study it, you study everything in the midst of the play, not just the player. Look at the talent at quarterback. No shot to Gunnar Stockton, but some of this is to help him out too. Hey, you're not a deep throwing a guy with a big arm and you could throw accurately down the field consistently and really take the top off the defense. That's not Gunnar Stockton's game. Georgia's a team that has religiously, outside of Matthew Stafford, they've had Aaron Murray, Stetson Bennett, Carson Beck, now Gunnar Stockton, right? They've had game managers at quarterback. Kirby loves it. He loves that archetype.
Not Bama. I'm sorry. I was going to make this comp. Georgia, like when we talk about Kirby Smart coming from Nick Saban, right? It seems as though he took what he learned, but didn't take the back end part of it, right? Like from Nick Saban. So it's like, you know, when Alabama had the Greg McElroys and the AJ McCarrons and those guys, like it seems like Georgia is still living in that space where it's like defense, run game, right? That's what we care about. And then get a quarterback that can manage the game and we'll win that way. And no knock to them. They've been winning, right? Winning at a very high clip. But it's just funny how when you compare the programs from when Kirby Smart was at Bama, right? And then what he's doing at Georgia.
Nick Saban said, let me get Julio Jones, give me Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, Ryan Wood. Like, he was like, let me get these receivers to help my quarterbacks out regardless of who's back there.
Yeah, and then there was
Jalen Hurts, the Jalen Milrose.
There was a transition, right, to where Bama did have the offensive playmakers, right? It was like, now they got first-round quarterbacks. Because at first it was third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round quarterbacks.
Legit.
And then they started having Heisman winners at quarterbacks and top 10 wide receivers. So it was very interesting just to see how it go. But DP, that was fun, man, going through these top 10 wide receivers. And man, there's so many different wide receivers. Like, you know, I was at the combine, well, not at the combine, but watching the combine, and I like watching Bryce Lance, right? And I think he ran with a 4.344, and I'm like, we just don't talk about him. And I don't know if we don't discuss him, like the NFL has not want to discuss him because he's Trey Lance's brother. I have no idea, but the young man can play football, and even past him running the 4.344.
He's this year's Christian Watson, bro. He is this year's Christian Watson,
and nobody's still discussing him, right? Like, so I'm like, I have no idea. But
I got my scouting profile, my scouting report coming up on him probably next week when the editors finish get their hands on it. Yeah, but he's definitely Christian Watson.
Another talented young man overall that we need to pay attention and keep our eyes on. Like we said, man, this wide receiver class is so good. It's so talented. It's so deep. If you need a wide receiver, if your NFL team needs a wide receiver, they should be able to walk away with 2 or 3. This
legitimately.
Because it is that talented. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we got to talk about Sadiq the Freak, the tight end from Oregon who ran with sub 4.4 in the 40, jumped 40 with 43.5 inches in the vert with 11.1 broad. We got to talk about this young man and how that translates to the NFL and why he's one of the better prospects in the draft and how high could he actually go. Comps, explaining the grade, all that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.